Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm going to be doing a book review of From Darkest Skies by Sam Peters. This is a science fiction thriller. It is brand new. It was only released a few years ago, so it's 2017 release. And this is the debut novel of Sam Peters. And this was sent to me by the publisher, but just because it's sent to me by the publisher, my opinions are indeed completely unbiased, depending on that. I greatly like this book, and that is irrelevant of the fact that I didn't pay for it. Just pointing that out. First of all, the premise. Now, as I just said, this is a science fiction thriller. The main character is a guy called Keon Rouse. He is an agent for a sort of planetary intelligence corporation, essentially. So think of kind of like an intergalactic FBI as sorts. And at the start of the book, he gets assigned to a planet to investigate a crime that is going on. Now, Keon has got some interesting history related to this planet, and that is 5 years before the book starts, his wife, who was also an agent for the government, she was murdered in a terrorist attack on a train on this planet, which is called Magenta. Now, this has obviously had a massive effect on Keon over the last 5 years because, of course, it's, he was in love with his wife, obviously passionately, and this has obviously messed him up in numerous ways. He's still in massive grief over it. However, one way he's tried to cope with the grief, and this is obviously the science fiction aspect of the book coming into play now, he's had created a sort of an artificial AI simulation of his wife. This is based on every single photo, bits of film, any kind of written diaries and such. Every single thing that could be found about his wife has been analysed by this one guy, a sort of technical person, and a simulation has been made. However, this type of simulation AI is illegal. However, so he has to keep this AI personality buried very securely when he's going through any kind of customs, or he thinks he might be at risk of her being discovered because she would obviously be taken away and probably destroyed, even though she's kind of sentient but not exactly. And obviously he would then be in massive trouble as well because this is a fairly serious crime if he were to be found out. The crimes that he's investigated on this new planet Magenta are not directly related to her crimes, but he's always wanted to go to this planet and investigate himself and try and figure out what happened to her because obviously it haunts him. And yeah, the plot goes from there. I can't say too much more because of course I'll give away spoilers and such, but it's a very interesting plot with some very interesting twists and turns, some of which you can expect, some of them you really don't expect, especially considering some of the characters and indeed what his wife now is. She's this simulation personality. It presents things that you wouldn't otherwise see in a thriller of this sort, and it's really interesting, I think, and works really, really well and makes it impressive book. So, as I've just mentioned, the characters in the book are also really quite impressive. Keon, as the main character, is described well. His emotional development in the book is really interesting and done rather well as well because, of course, he's still ripped apart inside from what happened, but he's trying to move on. But of course, he's got this simulation made, so he kind of wants to move on, but he kind of can't because he's now got this memory of his wife constantly with him, who he can talk to and indeed sounds like his wife, but not obviously. So he's in a weird place psychologically speaking, and so he's moved on for all intents and purposes, but there's still something obviously there that he needs to work through, and obviously that's one of the major points of the book. Other characters are done equally well. One interesting character is a character called Rajesh, who is a fellow agent who specialises in undercover work. Rajesh is a sort of bright point of levity basically in the darkness of this book. A lot of the book is quite dark because of what happened to his wife and various other events that go on. But Rajesh is really quite flamboyant and open, and he doesn't really care too much about what people think of him. He's been investigated for corruption. He's not corrupt, but well, at least from what I can tell so far, he's not. And he's a good character basically, and he sort of helps balance out the book between lightness and dark, because the book's got a fair bit of dark, but he creates an interesting viewpoint and an interesting sort of counterweight for Keon. Basically, they work off each other and bounce off each other remarkably well, I thought. And basically, he's just a fun character to be in the book. Also, as far as the setting goes, this is obviously a science fiction setting. This is set on a colony world called Magenta. This world works extremely well to basically build up the feeling and the atmosphere of this book. The name Magenta you tend to think of obviously as being colourful and such, but actually it's quite a dark world. It uses weather extremely well. There's lots of cloudy, stormy days. There are very sunny days. He mixes those up as well. He doesn't just do, when there's a sort of negative event, he doesn't just have a terrible weather to go with it. Sometimes bad things will happen and it'll be a nice sunny day. Sometimes great things will happen and it'll be in the middle of a thunderstorm. He uses weather and indeed the world and the overall setting extremely well. He doesn't go into excessive detail with in effects to be describing individual aspects of the world, the way the continents are formed and the way political boundaries are and such, and financial boundaries. He doesn't do that particularly much. He just gives you this overall idea and then you have this in your mind to work with. And I think that's all you need in a setting like this, because this is a character study, I think, on this very small set of characters and what each of them are playing off each other to a greater cause by the end of the book, which I'm impressed by. And as far as the pacing is concerned, the book is fast and very cleanly written. There are no miscellaneous events happening where characters wander off and they have almost no relevance to the main stories, just to give them like a little bit of extra, life outside the story. That doesn't really happen. Everything is quite focused, and it doesn't keep so focused though that it's just too serious and too dark. As I said, like for instance Rajesh, he brings that levity into the book. So the focus works in this case extremely well to keep the book nice, tight and taut, and it's just a really good book. As you can probably tell by now, I was very happy that I've read this book, because the pacing is great, the characters are great, the story is really interesting, and just the ideas in it are good. Obviously you have to keep careful track of what's going on, of course, same as all fillers of this kind, because otherwise you'll miss little details which then come up in the later book, and obviously there can be twists based on these turns, so you need to keep track, but that's a fairly normal thing for this kind. And in summary, basically, I really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend it. It's a interesting and well thought out and indeed well written debut novel by an author. The end of the book, he is left as such that if he wanted to, he could leave it as just this book, but personally he could easily have sequels though. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a trilogy, frankly, out of this, because there does seem to be a lot of trilogies nowadays, but that's another conversation entirely. Anyway, if you have read this or indeed have an interest in reading this, then please leave a comment in the description below, as always, and we can have a discussion. If you have any questions about the book that I didn't go into in this review, then also please ask and I'll try to answer as best as I'm able to. I'm no expert, obviously, as you know, but I'll try. And with that said, that is it for this video. So, thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.